everyone, and welcome back to the Let's Get Ready Network. I'm Adelia. That's my buddy Josh. This is Nostalgic Crackdown, our Schmoedown retrospective show. And this month we are discussing our rankings of the Inner Geekdom champions. Josh, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. I always love these talking about because I'm a sports guy. That's how I came into the Schmoedown. So admittedly to a fault, I'm like, oh, the greatest ever talks. Like I'm probably someone who thinks too much about the Michael versus LeBron, Brady versus Mahomes types of thing. Who's the greatest team of all time? So this type of episode's right down my alley. I'm excited to talk about it, see how our lists are similar, how they're different. We'll see.
Yeah. So we have the 9 Innergeekdom champions that existed in the Schmoedown, and we've ranked them based on their championship reigns, not their careers in the Schmoedown as a whole. Because my rankings would be very different, even if I just included the non championship reign matches for a couple of these people in the Innergeekdom divisions. So just the championship reigns. Josh, you want to go first?
Sure. I think we'll start with number 9, and I think we have the same number 9. I'd be shocked if we didn't. Good old Robert Meyer Burnett.
Yeah.
Like you won one time, and you never won a match after or at least an Intergeekdom match after winning the belt.
Yeah.
You were the first one to do it, so it's not like you beat a champion that was we already had some hype about this champion. I don't mean that sounds probably colder than I meant it, but
Yeah.
if you're going to be the first champion of all time, you got to defend once at least to put your name in history. You can't win and then win the first time, so be the first champion and then lose and never get back to the top. It's like I
Yeah.
think most people when they're making the list, it has Robert Meyer Burnett last just because of that.
Yeah, Robert Meyer Burnett is my number 9. Just for some statistics, he was the champion from December 23rd, 2016 to February 10th, 2017. That's 49 days, 0 title defenses within those 49 days. And yeah, I don't really have much to say about his championship reign because it wasn't much of anything.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to the next one, number 8. We'll see if we're similar with this. I have Robert Parker.
I also have Robert Parker. Robert Parker was champion from July 29th, 2022 to October 1st, 2022 for 64 days, 0 title defenses in that reign. Second shortest reign in of the time frame of the Schmoedown. Um, Robert Parker, everybody really thought he was going to be the champion one of these days. And then he got to be the champion and just nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like, his title reign was short because I think a lot of the Inner Geekdom champions didn't do a lot of defenses of the title within the reign. But when you can't even defend it once, then yeah.
I mostly agree. I think the thing that separates me because with Parker is that it never felt like he was a dominant champion. I
No.
think once we get to, I think every single person after this list, there were a time where I was like, I wonder who's going to beat them. They feel like so entrenched in this division for X, Y, or Z reason. And when I think about championship reigns, I don't just think about defenses, but I think about how did it feel at the time when
Hmm.
I was watching Robert Parker. Did I feel like he was very beatable? And because his career was so, even though he came in with so much hype, because that hype died down in a way, and it took him a long road to get here. And then
Yeah.
once you get here, you lose it right away. It didn't feel like, oh, I don't think this guy can lose. I was like, yeah, I mean, he's a great champion and he won, but I could totally see the rain didn't feel a lot to me, and that because maybe that's a harsh way to look at it instead of just looking like, okay, here's who defended, here's who didn't, looking purely stats wise. I just think, and Parker didn't defend in the end. Like you're already going to have a tough time on this list competing against the people who either won it twice or defended once.
Yeah.
Like that's the big separators is defending once or winning it twice.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that Parker could have possibly, had the show continued, gone on to be a good champion with some title defenses if he won it back later on down the line. But of course, he lost it at the final Schmoedown Spectacular, which was also the series finale of the show. So he never got that opportunity. Plus, this was when he had that weird heel turn after being part of the dungeon. And then for season 9, he did the heel turn, and he was just a. I didn't like his character in season 9, and that's part of the reason why I think I don't like his title reign, because like he finally has the belt and he's this like smarmy heel, but I just found him annoying.
Wasn't he a little smarly when he joined, like a little overconfident in the
A
dungeon when he
little
joined?
overconfident, yeah, but it was different when he was actually legitimately a heel.
Got it.
Um, and then for him to not even be able to defend the belt, it's just like, what was the point,
Mhm.
basically?
All right.
Um, all right, let's move on to number 7. I'll say my number 7 first, since you've gone twice, first twice
Mhm.
already. My number 7 is Jason Inman. Uh,
Interesting.
Jason Inman was champion from December 22nd, 2017 to September 14th, 2018 for 266 days. He had one title defense against Mark Donica on April 24th, 2018. And I don't really remember too much about Jason Inman's reign. Like, it's not
So
memorable to me.
here's I actually have Inman one above.
Okay.
I have Navarro and then Inman. I have
Okay. Yes,
Navarro
I
as
have
my
them swapped. I have Navarro as my 6.
all right. So here's the difference between me for Navarro and Inman. Difference is in Navarro's reign, they just did not play IGS often. So yes, he has more days to him, but like I feel like there was so much more IG being played when Inman was a champion than
Hmm.
Navarro. That's the first thing. I You can make the argument that Donica and Johns are like a similar level defense. I think Donica maybe is a bit more was a bit more invested in the Schmoedown than Johns was as a
Yeah, I'd agree with
competitor.
that.
So I would view Inman's defense as a little more interesting. And also, if I remember correctly, Navarro lost the belt to Inman.
Yes.
So because of that, I was like, okay, so you lost the belt. If I'm just if there's ever a tiebreaker for me, if I'm deciding between Navarro and Inman, is like you lost, you played in the
Who won the
championship.
head to head? Yeah.
They went head to head. And also, if you look at who Inman lost to, it's Mara Konopik. And I have a feeling we're both going to have Mara pretty high on the list. So,
Yeah.
like for those reasons, I was like, okay, you lost. Let's see, Navarro lost to Inman, Inman lost to Mara, and Mara is going to be higher on the list than Inman. No offense, Inman. I feel like the IG was a much more lively division, just because it was the later champion you are, the more IG is lively in a way. Like
I'd agree with that.
When Navarro was a champion, there just wasn't as many IG matches, and a lot of like, I think one of the reasons John got that number one contenders match was a 5-way again or a 3-way or something like that. So like,
Yeah.
that
That's
was still very prominent.
Yeah, there was a lot of fatal 5 ways, fatal 4 ways in the IG in the early days. I mean, that's how Robert Meyer Burnett won the belt in the first place, was
Hmm.
a fatal 5 way. I believe it's spectacular. So I put Hector above Inman because to me, Jeremy Johns was a better opponent than Mark Donica, like quality wise. Donica was probably more invested in the Schmoedown than Jeremy Johns was, but I feel like Jeremy Johns competed in more high level matches in the Innergeekdom division than Donica did, and so that for me is what put made me put Hector Navarro at number 6. Since we're talking about Hector, Hector was the champion from February 10th, 2017 to December 22nd, 2017, 315 days, and he had the one title defense against Jeremy Johns at Collision, I believe the first ever Collider Collision on July 7th, 2017. Um, they're very similar and could almost be like tied to me, him and Inman.
Absolutely. I think like it's really 1A, 1B. It's like they were
Yeah.
both in a very similar time period in IG. They both have
Mhm.
one belt win, one defense, and then lost the belt after that.
Yeah.
And also both never won the belt again as well. So
Yeah.
it really depends on preference. I will say Navarro's run I feel like is more memorable than Inman's. Like
Hmm.
it he definitely felt like more unbeatable than Inman just because he beat Robert Meyer Burnett and then he defended against John and I think there's something where it's like oh it felt like he was more unbeatable in a way if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Okay. So that's our 7 and 6. Let's go to number five. Number five, I could not believe I had her this low on this, is Rachel Cushing.
I also have Rachel Cushing at number 5, and like I'll be honest, like there's a part of me that was like, not having that defense is really tough if we're talking about just championship reigns.
Yeah, just championship reigns. Not her overall as an IG player. Overall as an IG player, she'd be higher on this list. But just her championship reign, which was from March 1st, 2019 to July 26th, 2019, 148 days, she had zero title defenses. Because she beat Mike Kalinowski for the belt in an incredible match and then lost back to Mike Kalinowski the belt. Um, she gets ranked lower than some others because of the zero defenses, and also because like 148 days and there's no title defense in there. That's weird to me. um, I also put her above someone like Navarro or Inman who had title defenses, because I felt the quality of her two championship matches where she won the belt and then lost the belt was much higher than the quality of the matches that Hector or Jason had.
Absolutely. Like I thought about putting like being like, oh well, Navarro and Inman have a defense and Cushing doesn't, and it was, but like it felt really wrong just because of the level of play Cushing played at, especially in those in those title matches against Mike, and
Mhm.
the fact that Mike was her opponent. When we're talking about like ranking these reigns, Mike is going to be very, very high on my list, probably very high on yours. I
Mhm.
mean, I think it's no spoiler to say he's probably going to be one or two, depending on one other. I would say one, two, or three. You could probably make the argument, but
Yes.
when you're playing against one of the either greatest or top three greatest champions of all time, and that was just how the die fell, I'm willing to excuse the lack of defense, especially when again Navarre and Inman. I feel like there's just a difference between. I think Cushing is like the true turning point where it's like, oh, the division's different now. We
Yeah,
we got to judge like pre-Cushing champions on a curve, in my opinion.
I agree. Um, so let's go on to number four. Who's your number four?
Chandru Dandapani.
My number four is Mara Knopic.
Interesting. Okay. So I think this is the question of, do you value defense more or a two-time champion more?
Yeah.
I
And
sorry, go
for,
ahead.
for me, I think that even if you've won the belt twice, like Mara did, because Mara did, her first reign, September 14th, 2018 to December 21st, 2018, 98 days, zero defenses. Her second reign, February 19th, 2021 to May 21st, 2021, 92 days, zero defenses. Chandru was August 7th, 2020 to February 19th, 2021, 196 days, but he did have a title defense against Chance Ellison at Schmoedown Spectacular, December 12th, 2020.
Absolutely. So this was a tough one. I think I just value so greatly winning the belt twice, like having two
Mm-hmm.
different reigns, because there's a lot of people, even though like some people had trouble defending, if you look at the number of people who defended, it's Navarro, Inman, Chandru, did Smets defend?
Smets did not defend the belt,
Okay,
no.
and Mike. So that's four people versus three people who, not a huge difference, but to me that was enough of a like difference in my head where it's like, oh, it's so hard to win and get back, especially because Mara, how how she took a step away from the game, and how the big gap of not competing for a while and then getting back despite not competing consistently for a while. I will say with Chandru though, the fact that he won it off Smets, absolutely huge point point of argument for him being in the top three.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he was able to defend at Spectacular, huge feather in the cap as well. Um, and like it's so difficult as well. I mean, the
It,
small
it
thing we
is.
all say is Mara did take the belt off Chandru, so if you're going for a
She
small
did.
tiebreaker,
Yeah.
um, I think really, and I think a lot of times this list just comes down, and I think this happens a lot in GOAT debates where it's like, oh, I value LeBron because of his longevity. Well, I value Jordan because he won it 5 times and he was so dominant, even though he didn't have
Yeah.
LeBron's longevity. Like GOAT
Yeah.
debates just come down to, or like greatest of all time debates will always come down to, what do you value? Do you value a longevity career where you're able to do it multiple times? Are you valuing you're able to do it once, but that one time you did it, that time period you did it was so great that no one's ever reached that level of heights.
Mm-hmm.
Are you valuing impact of the game? How you like, because you can make the argument even that Steph is in the GOAT conversation then because of just how much he impacted future generations of 3-point shooting. So like all these go like greatest of all time reign debates always come down to what do you value, and I think
Yeah,
this is just I value the multiple championships because I feel like that's the I think it's so difficult to like to climb up to that championship thing and then to get
it is.
knocked off the mountain and then climb up again. I think that's something that's not just difficult for IG, it's very difficult for with across all Schmoedown competitors.
Yes,
Well, the fences, and I'll just use my own reasoning. I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong. The fences, once you're on top of the mountain, it is tough to defend, but you're on top of the mountain. You're the champion. You have the psychological edge in a way because everyone's in a way afraid of you because you have the belt. You're currently the best to do it at the moment. So
yeah.
like that's my personal reasoning for it and why I value the multiple championships over the defenses.
Well, one of the reasons why I had Mara here and I have Chandru ahead of her is because Chandru also did with the character work. Like, character work is something you have to take into consideration in the Schmoedown, and he was a nasty heel. I mean, the stuff he said to Smets in the championship match, I mean, nobody knew what was going on with Smets at the time. Everybody just thought Chandru was being a dick. And, and then he kept the character work up um, throughout the course of his title reign. He does have the one defense against Chance Ellison. That was another point in his favor to me. But to do all of that, I've met Chandru. Chandru's a great guy. He's really a really nice guy. But to make everyone hate him the way that he did, I have to give him points over Mara, who, well, I loved Mara and I think she was great as a competitor, didn't really have a character that she was portraying. She was just Mara. And there's nothing wrong with that because a lot of people like Rachel Cushing didn't really have a character at any point. She was just maybe an exaggerated version of herself. But to do it as a heel, the way that Chandru did, to me, is another point in his favor, which made me put him above Mara. Because, you could just base this off of the multiple championships being a heavier weight in where you rank them, and that's fine. But we only had three multiple champions in the course of the Schmoedown in Innergeekdom, and so like that would be my top three. And I just feel like Chandru's title reign was more impactful to the Schmoedown as a whole, as a TV show or whatever you want to call it, than either one of Mara's.
Absolutely. And I'll also say um I'll say what's so like I think that's a great point. I think the thing with Mara is even though she didn't have a character, she had so many great lines, if you will.
She did. She was
So
really
many memorable like things that like one of the most memorable things within the Schmoedown that probably will till my grave I'll remember is the brown dwarf star.
yeah.
Is the brown dwarf star line. And I think that like I will also say, and this might be a little spoiler of my next two rankings that we'll probably talk about, I rank people who lost a mic a bit higher than others. Like in that and I think one of Chandru's losses is Mike, but he also loses to or is it Mara?
No, Chandru lost to Mara. He only had
Okay.
the one title reign. He lost to Mara. Mara's title reigns, both times, I believe she lost to Mike. Yeah, she did.
Okay, got it. Got it. I'm thinking I'm trying to remember what so that Mike versus Chandru match wasn't a title match?
Um, I don't know if one of yeah, no, it was a title match, but Chandru wasn't the champion. Then Mike was.
Oh, right. Got it. Okay, I got my wires mixed up there. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay, so here I like both Mara's like losing the belt moments were to Mike, and I think like that's kind of like again a little spoilers for my number one. Kind of losing the Jordan or kind of losing the LeBron, depending on who you have number one, is like I can't
yeah.
blame you too much for that.
Right. And I get your point on that as well. I feel like as an overall impact to the show, Chandru's, title reign had more impact than Mara either one of Mara's did.
I completely get that, and you can make the argument that on that impact alone, Chandra's not only three, he can be number two. Like I could totally put if you take into account that impact and how good he was as a heel, especially in the digital era where it was so difficult to have that transformative character work, for him to be
Mhm.
able to do that so efficiently and effectively is like I can definitely see that argument. It's something I didn't consider when I was doing this ranking, but it's an absolutely fantastic, great point.
Okay, so you had Chandru at number 4, I had Mara at number 4. Do we have the same at number 3? So I have Chandru at number 3 and you have
Mara,
Mara.
yes,
Okay. Then let's move on to number 2,
yes,
which for me is Kevin Smets.
yes. Okay, we have the same one.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll talk about Smets and then we'll talk about Kalinowski because to me Kalinowski is the clear number 1 here.
Yes,
Um, Smets, 3 title reigns. The first, December 17th, 2019 to August 7th, 2020, 235 days, 0 defenses. Second reign, May 27th, 2022 to July 29th, 22, 64 days, 0 defenses. Third reign, 1 day of October 1st, 2022, which was, of course, the last day of the Schmoedown. He was the final Innergeekdom champion. Um, Interesting. I really would like an alternate universe, know if Mike was in that match at the final Schmoedown Spectacular, who would have won it? Because the one more head to head between these two would have been really great. But Mike wasn't in that match, and Kevin won it. Not saying he wouldn't have beaten Mike in that match, but he wasn't in the match, so he couldn't have. Um, I think Kevin Smets is one of the most influential competitors in Schmoedown history, and I think a lot of that has to do with nothing to do with the Schmoedown and everything to do with the cancer battle and Smash Cancer and how that became like a rallying cry not just for Smets but for other people in the Schmoedown who were affected by something like that. Um, the whole like live stream that was done for this to raise money for Smuts and his family is one of the most memorable things about the Schmoedown to me. And like was going through a lot that weekend. My dad was in the hospital that weekend, so like I watched it all on mute, but I could still feel the emotion coming through the screen with everything that was going on. That's not to be that you can't think about Smets and not think about that stuff. But if you just look at his title reigns, all 3 of them, 0 defenses. And that's where it sets him apart from Mike to me. Because he and Mike, both 3-time champions, the only 3-time champions that there were in Inner Geekdom in the Schmoedown. Um, Mike's first 2 title, we'll loop them all in together. Mike's first 2 title reigns were December 21st, 2018 to March 1st, 2019, 70 days, 0 defenses. He lost to Rachel in that great match on Schmoedown Throwdown. Then second reign, he won it back from Rachel July 26, 2019 at Comic Con, and then was champion until December 17th, 2019, when Smets beat him at Schmoedown Spectacular. That was 144 days, 0 defenses. The third reign is what sets Mike apart to me. May 21st, 2021 to May 27th, 2022, 371 days, 3 title defenses. He beat Chandru, he beat Amaru Moses, and he beat Robert Parker.
absolutely. So the three title defenses absolutely sets him apart for me. I'll also quickly say, uh, um, I love Smets. Smets wasn't clear set number two in my list, if that makes sense. Like I was
Yeah,
really close to putting Mara at number two. I couldn't do it because again, like you said, Smets was so influential. His character is great. He was so uh and the three there is I will say quickly about Smets. I don't value that third championship as much as some of the other
yeah,
championships.
no,
It's a five-way that again, five ways kind of whatever. It's a five-way that you didn't win your way up to, which kind
yeah,
of matters for me. It's just like it was the last day, so we just kind of like, okay, who's and you earned your way by being one of the greatest players of all time. I understand it in that sense, but what I mean is like I think it's important to win a couple matches into that defense to earn that number one contenders match. And
yeah,
like that's always a huge sticking point for me, and that we've talked about this. It's a huge tipping point for me in that specific end to the Schmoedown, the spectacular. It's always
Mhm.
been a little, so it's tough for me to like. But
Yeah.
even despite that, obviously one of the greatest IG players of all time. Two very memorable reigns, and like was one of the champions. Even though he had no defenses, I feel like every time he played, it was like, well, can't bet against Smets, which is a
Yeah.
huge thing to do, mindset wise. He was so good, but in the end, Mike has three defenses. I think there are three defenses in total, non-Mike defenses in IG in total. I think Chandru has one, Inman Navarro. No one else has defended.
No one else
So
defended
literally,
it.
Mike has equaled the amount of defenses that the entire rest of the IG division has.
Yeah.
Because of that, there's just no way that third run. It is the fact that it's the third run. Usually, when you're on your last champ, and we didn't know at the time it was his last championship reign. When you're on your last championship reign for IG, that's usually not the best one. Usually, your prime
Yeah.
is in your first or second one. The fact that you have the longevity, and you could have the argument you have the dominance because you have the most defenses by a mile, basically.
And
It's
they're quality defenses too. Like Chandru,
well,
Amaru, and Robert Parker were fantastic players.
absolutely.
Um,
And he dominated IG when it was its most competitive.
mhm.
And like I love, and Smets is very very close to Mike in a way, but like Smets has never dominated the belt as Mike has.
Yeah. I mean, like the first name I think of when I think of Innergeekdom is Mike Kalinowski, and that
Absolutely.
tells you everything you need to know about how good he was. Um, Smets, like I said, had massive impact on the Schmoedown in ways that I'm sure he would have never wanted to have had that impact on the
Mhm.
Schmoedown. Nobody would have ever
Yeah.
wanted that for anybody. But he did have massive impact on the Schmoedown, and that's why even though he you're right. We kind of have to discount the third title reign of Smets because it was one day and that was the end of the show.
In a
Um,
sense, but just a
in a
little
sense,
asterisks, little asterisks.
it's the little asterisk. Like I said, and Kalinowski wasn't in that match. It was a fatal four way with Chandru, Mara, and Robert Parker.
I think Rachel Cushing,
Um,
was she in it or?
no, Rachel was not in that match. Rachel faced Marisol
Oh
in a singles
right,
match.
right.
I think they should have added Rachel to that match and found a different opponent for Marisol, but
I'm surprised they
that's neither
didn't.
here nor there.
I know we talked about this in the when we talked about that spectacular. I'm surprised they didn't have Marisol play Bateman and have Rachel in the five way, because that match was already scheduled to be a number one contenders match.
Yeah. I have no idea why they did what they did with that final spectacular.
Mhm.
Anyways, we've talked about all that already. Go check out the Schmoedown Spectacular episode if you want to hear our thoughts on all that. Uh, Smets, to me, um, was an impactful champion, even without all the like impact of the Smash Cancer stuff. Like his he beat Kalinowski for his first championship too, and I mean he didn't just like beat him; he destroyed Kalinowski at that spectacular, won by knockout, um, and that's when it was really impressive. Plus, Smets came back from the "Don't Tell Harry" moment, which the answer was "Don't tell Harry." He says "Don't tell Peter," and loses the number one contendership match, which Mike won um, at Collision earlier that year that he beats Kalinowski at Spectacular. So I don't know, like it's hard to say that some of these champions didn't have a massive impact. I mean, some of them didn't. Like the ones at the bottom of our list did not have a massive impact. The ones in the like the top five all had massive impacts on the um, on the Schmoedown. But it's hard to argue with Smets's impact on the Schmoedown versus Kalinowski being the one who actually was clearly the best champion. So that's why I ranked them where they did.
Absolutely. Like I'm very curious. Everyone, if you're willing, put your comments on what your list would be for the IG championships,
Yeah.
because I'm curious how far or close we are to the consensus. But I'm pretty sure I think most people will have Kevin and Mike number one and two. I really wanted to put Mara number two. I was really close to it, but in the end, the fact that I think really what broke me was the fact that Kevin won so dominantly against Mike for his first championship. And again, I value the Mike matches more because he's my greatest of all time when it comes to
Yeah,
IG. And like I think what's important to say, this IG run is so good by Kalinowski, or so incredible. This IG run alone, like his three championships, put him in the GOAT debate. And
yeah,
like by far, it's like you can't have the GOAT debate without Mike Kalinowski. And
yeah.
I haven't really fully wrestled with how I'm going to. I still haven't decided on who my true GOAT is, if I'm being honest, between
We're gonna
Sam
have to do.
Levine, Dan Murrell, and Mike Kalinowski.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do that episode.
I know that's going that episode's going to be heartbreaking for me because I really want it to be Dan Morrell, and I know it's not. Like I'll
Yeah,
spoil this. I I like I'm a huge if I had one fandom in the Schmoedown, it was Dan Morrell, and I just can't do it number one. So like I'll be honest, I'm right now leaning Sam, but just for this IG run, I think there's a very 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 strong argument that Mike deserves to go title.
I think when you combine the IG run with his team's stuff with corruption, and and he didn't have necessarily the single success that Sam did, but I think when you
Sam didn't have
combine
the
all of
IG
that,
success that Mike did.
yeah,
The fact
Sam
that
didn't have the IG success.
the fact that Mike
It's
has some
very close.
single success.
Them. Yeah, it's very close between the two of them. So we're gonna have to do that episode. So check
Yeah,
that out in the future. Not sure when we'll do that one, but yeah, um, I think there's no debate that Mike's number one
yeah.
here.
I'd be interested if you have one to let us know in the comments. Like if you think
Yeah,
Smets or Mara or Chandru or even Cushing is number one, I'd be very curious to hear the argument. I just think like the three defenses is just it's impossible. It's so hard to. It's like it's Jordan's 5-0, and even though I'm a LeBron goat guy, it's hard to argue when it's like, well, 5-0 in the finals. I'm like, okay, well, yes, that's
is
your
Smith
best point.
6-0? Didn't he win
Oh,
six?
6. There you go. I'm 6-0 in the finals, undefeated in the finals.
That's hard to argue with in the NBA, for sure. But these
Yes,
sorts of debates are fun. These are just fun debates. Your
yeah,
rankings could be completely different than ours, and if so, we'd really love to hear what they are in the comment section below. So please do that. Also, like and share this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more episodes of Nostalgia Crackdown. We do these monthly, and they're a lot of fun because I miss the show
absolutely.
so much. And I realized that when I was researching this, I was like, damn, I really wanted to know what Smet's like third title reign would have been like, or see what Robert Parker, if he gets another title reign, would have had defense wise and new competitors coming in. And it would. I miss the
Yeah.
show.
I miss definitely for these type of discussions make me miss it the most because I love sports and I love thinking about like the what ifs, the new competitors coming in, thinking can they be can someone beat Mike's three defense record? Can we have more double time champions? And my only hope, like my real hope, is that the show ended for us, but maybe there's still a game going, continuing, and there's more records being added on that we just don't know about. So
Yeah,
like that's my kind of like tiny hope is that like oh Mike and Smets and Mara and Chandra and Cushing they're all still playing IG Schmoedown just in their own homes and like having their own belts and defenses and like having an at home league almost. I think that's just kind of my fun fan cast. I'm like oh that would be
they've
fun. It's
turned
just
it into one of the fan leagues.
exactly just the fan leagues that isn't televised. It's just a
Yeah,
good old hangout sesh where you have a belt and you try and win it from your opponent.
yeah. That's fun to think about. But yeah, leave those comments down below. Let us know who your rankings and what you thought of ours. Like, I'm real curious, like your thoughts on our arguments for like why I have Chandru ahead of Mara, but he has Mara ahead of Chandru, and all of that. So,
Inman versus
check that out.
Navarro, I'm curious what the
Yeah,
consensus is there because they're so neck and neck in my head.
yeah, they're very close. Um, So yeah, thanks for joining us here today on the show, Josh. Thank you for being here. Where can people find you?
You can find me here at LGR. I'm here once a month with the Nostalgia Crackdown. Supporting me is just supporting LGR. So to support us, go to go to coffee. That's the first time saying that out loud. So I hope I said it right.
We can't agree on how it's said here, so it's either coffee or it's Ko-Fi or whatever. Just you know what it is, ko-fi.com/LGR_network. You can join our Discord for free now. So if you want to help support the channel in a little bit with some monetary funds, help us do more cool things, you can do that at the Ko-Fi page. And there's higher tiers. In fact, there's a tier on there where you could appear on an episode of this show if you wish. So go ahead and check that out. Yeah, the link to the Discord is in the description of this episode. So join us in there. You can talk Schmoedown with us if you want. We don't have a channel for that anymore because it's over, but you can talk about it in general. And yeah, there's all kinds of other discussions and things going on in there. And we're trying to build a community in there. So come join us in the Discord. Um, until next time, guys, we are out of here. Bye.
It's for real.